So we are starting from where we left out yesterday. Okay. So we discussed something about the inheritance. Okay. So what are the advantage of classes? And the biggest advantage that we saw was the inheritance. So moving ahead to the inheritance only, we are not done yet with the inheritance, but we have understood what is inheritance, right? And let me recall in short what is inheritance. When we create a subclass, okay, or when we create a class from the parent class, okay, then what we do, we inherit the attributes and we inherit the methods of that class in our child class. Remember, your parent class can also be known as a superclass. Okay, and your the class that you have derived from that, it will be known as a child class or subclass as well. So moving ahead, so we understood we created a class known as animal yesterday, and it has some attributes. It has some methods like eat and sleep. Then what we needed one more class like bird. Okay, and we know a bird is an animal as well. So what happens with that? Bird also eat, bird also sleep, right? So instead of writing that code again, what we can do, we can incorporate those attributes and methods from its parent class known as animal. So we use animal there. Okay, and after that we create its own attribute, its own method. So by doing that, when we created the instance of the bird, then what was happening? The bird was having the attribute of itself, the method of itself, as well as the attributes and methods of the parent class itself. Okay, this was the thing. Now see, what happened yesterday, we studied one level of inheritance. We can in fact do multi-level of inheritance. Let me show you what. Let me show you that. What do you mean by multi-level of inheritance? Let me create that. Multi-level inheritance. Okay. Suppose again there is a class known as Silas, and again the same class is animal. The class is animal. Okay. And this class has a method known as example eat. Same I am taking. Okay. An example, this method does what? Just right now, for the sake of simplicity, we are writing eats. That's it. Okay. We create one more method like sleep. And for sake of simplicity, we are just writing sleeps. Okay, so one class is already created. This one. Now suppose somebody asked me to create one more class. Somebody asked me to create one more class, and he said I should have these attributes. What attributes I should have? I should be able to eat. I should be able to sleep. These properties should be already available in myself. So what way of doing that? One way of doing is that is what? I again write a function. Example we did yesterday, like bird. Again, bird. And one way of doing that, I write bird. Define same functions again. And define one more function of its own, which he needs different than animal, like fly. And I define self, okay, and print for the sake of simplicity fly. So my bird class will have three methods: eat, sleep, and fly. But as I told you, in programming world, there is a word known as dry, D-R-Y. It means don't repeat yourself. Don't repeat yourself. As we know, there exists already a class which has these two functions already in that. Eat and sleep means eat and sleep methods are already in that class. Then why we are writing these? Why we are writing this? Why don't we inherit these methods from someone else, that is animal? So for that purpose, we use the advantage of inheritance. So I removed this place. I came here and the bracket, I wrote the name of its parent class. Its parent class, that is animal. And once I do that, then what is going to happen? Once I'm doing that, then what will happen? That this bird will inherit the attributes and the methods of the parent class, and it can have its own method as well. So it will have three methods: fly, sleep, and eat. And we are not writing these method again, right? We are not defining this method again. So we are following the dry concept, which is important in the programming paradigm. So I'm running this. So this blueprint has been created. So let me check its instance. Let's say known as B. The bird name is B. So I'm creating an instance or an object of the blueprint. From the bird class, we are making First time a bird. The blueprint has been created. These classes are nothing but blueprint. From that blueprint, we are creating first time an object. Means a bird is produced in the world, right? So I'm writing bird. I just create an object, and now I can check that this bird object will all three methods that eat, sleep, and fly. If you press tab, you can see all three methods are accessible by the bird. Perfect, no problem. Now suppose, now comes multi-level inheritance. This way we have gone to the one level inheritance. Now suppose I further want to create a class. I further want to create a class. And this time I want to create a class known as chicken. Okay. This time I want to create a class chicken. And chicken we know is what? Belongs to the category of bird. Am I right or wrong? Chicken belongs to a category of bird. So what should happen? We should derive these methods and these attributes from the bird class. What I will write? I will write bird. Simple. If I don't only need this one, or we can write our own function as well. For example, def. I mean to say what I want to read. Suppose there's a function known as what should I say? The chicken's child's babies are known as, what do you call them? Chicken's babies. There is specific word to them. I don't know what's the name of the chickens. The babies of the chicken. We call them specifically something. Does anybody can remember what we call them? The babies of chicken? Anybody? Am I audible? First, confirm me that, please.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so anybody remember what is the names of babies of chicken? Let me check on the Google. Babies of chicken are called. Let we are taking a name as baby chickens. Fine, perfect, no issue with that. So we are taking baby chickens. So we are defining a function baby chick. Example. Okay, we put self. Okay, and we just want to say print. Yes, my childs are baby chick. Okay, now see what is happening here. I created a class. Okay, so again a blueprint is created. Now what I can do, I can create instance and object of this class. So how will we create that? Suppose that is known as chick. The instance is known as chick. Chick equals to chicken. The same from the blueprint, we are creating an object. So how many methods I will be having now? Can anybody tell me how many methods my chick will have now? How many methods it will have? Please tell me how many? Yes, yes, very good. First one, baby chick. Second one, fly. Third one, sleep. Fourth one, eat. So we can, if you press tab here, we can see all four methods are available by chick. So what we had, we had multi-level inheritance. From animal, we inherited in the bird. From the bird, we inherited into the chicken, right? So chicken is subclass of bird as well as the subclass of animal. We can check it. For example, see, is instance. We're checking. Suppose my class is known chick, that is the object. Let me check any class name I want to type. Animal, or substable check to the first level, that is chicken. Okay, what is the class? Let me run this. It returned true. Yes, I'm an instance of the chicken class. Perfect. Let me copy it. Let me check. Go one level above. That means from chicken to go to bird, because that has been derived from the bird. Again true. Yes, it has been derived from the bird. Again copy. And this time check animal. Again, yes. And this time check again the parent class, the father of all the classes or the mother of all the classes, known as, remember, the father of all the classes in the Python. What is that
Object.
class? Yes,
Object.
very good, very good. Right? Let me check it. Yes, true. So see how many level of inheritance we are having. We derived our chick from chicken, right? That is its parent class. Further, from chicken, chick is an object of chicken class. Now, chicken has a parent of bird and bird has a parent of animal. Right? Means chicken means who is the father of or who is the parent of chicken class? The parent of chicken class is bird. Bird's parent is animal. I hope it is clear. This is the way we have derived. We can see we created first of class an animal, and from that animal we inherited property in the bird. So with the child class now bird, right? And who is the parent? Animal. From what we did, now we know that chicken is also a type of bird. So we inherited the properties of bird into the chicken. So who is the child now? Child is chicken. Who is the parent? Bird. If we are calling it parent, we can call it a super parent, right? This is the way. So we can create multi-level inheritance. But what is the good practice? What is the good practice that you should understand? Never go very much into detail. It means very much deeper into the levels. Okay, we are created just one, we are created from one level, two level. Don't go much beyond than that. You are going to face a lot of problems because here itself the problem is arrives. It's here itself. If you can see properly in the bird class, okay, we know that chicken is a bird, and we used a method known as fly because birds fly. That's normal, but chicken does not fly properly. Have you seen that? Chicken is flying from one place to another place. Have you ever seen that? No. So if you are creating multi-level classes, okay, or multi-level inheritance rather, if you are creating multi-level inheritance, be cautious. And 100% you are going to face some problems if you are creating too many levels of inheritance. So you have to be cautious. Means, but conceptually you can create any level of multi-level inheritance, but you should not go beyond 2 to 3. Remember that. Try to stick to 2 levels. That's it. More than enough. If you are going to the multi-level, 100% you are going to incorporate some attributes of the methods which do not belong to your current class. I hope it is okay with everyone. What is clear? What is multi-level inheritance? First tell me, is it okay? What is multi-level inheritance? So we can do that.
Yes, sir.
And what is the drawback of multi-level inheritance that you should also incorporate? So be cautious. Be cautious while you're creating multi-level inheritance. Up to 1 to 2 levels, no problem is there. When you start going beyond than that, problems are going to arrive for sure. I hope it makes sense to everyone. Is it fine? Everyone, please tell me.
Yes, sir.
I'm just
Yes,
hearing
sir.
a word of only one candidate now. But others, please.
Yes,
Is it
sir.
okay? Great. So I'm moving ahead now. Second is multiple inheritance. Multiple inheritance. Now see, understand. Right now, for example, take an example of bird. We inherited the properties of only one class. We inherited the property of only one class, but in fact, we can inherit the properties of multiple classes at the same time. We can inherit the properties of multiple classes at the same time. Here I just inherit the properties of animal class. I may incorporate the properties of other classes as well. So when we are incorporating inheritance of other classes, more than one class, when we are inheriting the attributes and method of more than one class, we call it as multiple inheritance. Okay? So let me take an example. Please, somebody is unmuted, mute yourself. So request, please. Understand. Suppose I have a class known as arithmetic. Okay. I have a class known as arithmetic. And in the arithmetic class, we have defined few operations like arithmetic operations. So I defined a def, one add, a function I'm defining or a method I'm defining, the argument self, and two input variables a and b. Okay, a comma b. Fine. And here we are saying just return me a plus b. Okay, first method. Then I define one more method, let's say sum. Again, self. We'll take two arguments, a comma b. Sorry, what mistake? A comma b. And then I said return a minus b. Okay, you can add further if you want. Suppose I add multiply. Again, self comma a comma B. And again, I said return A multiplied by B. This is one class, arithmetic, right? Now, suppose there is one more class known as a string class. I'm just taking an example, okay? I'm creating my own string class. So I'm typing string. String is a keyword. str is a keyword, so I can type a string, no issue, okay? And right now I'm not inheriting something, so I can just skip that. I define a function def concat, okay? Concat, which will again take two arguments, self A and B, okay? And this time it will do concatenation of A and B. So I type return str of A plus str of B. Okay, str of A means convert A into the string. If somehow he is entered into the numeric data, convert it into the string, so that this, and similarly B is have entered like a numeric, convert that into the string. And when we put plus sign between the strings, it does concatenation. And you know what is concatenation? Remember, if we take a string like P and we concatenate with the string S, then what it will result me? It will give me simply a string of PS. This is your concatenation, right? This is your concatenation. If you want to check it, you can copy it from here. And for sake of simplicity, I'm doing that. Let me run this and you can check it out. Okay, so this is I want. Now understood, suppose. Sometime I have to design a new class. And I want to incorporate arithmetic operations in that, as well as string operations in that. Repeat what I'm saying, please. What I want is, I want to incorporate arithmetic operations in that, as well as string operations in that. Then what I have to do, I can incorporate properties from this, or attributes and methods from this class, as well as attributes and methods from this class. This is nothing but multiple inheritance. Not two, you can even have more. Doesn't matter. I'm just taking an example of two. You can have multiple. So how do we create that? Suppose. So I give the names class, and suppose I'm getting the class known as superclass. This is my superclass. Okay. Now, as I have to inherit from arithmetic as well as string. Arithmetic and string. So I have to write the name of both of them. Arithmetic, comma, string. If you want to incorporate from furthermore classes, put a comma and keep putting. It's entirely your choice. This is nothing but multiple inheritance. So, okay. So I'm doing that. Colon. And for this class, I'm not doing anything. For example, just combining the methods from this class as well as this class. So just passing that. Okay. Runs some error is there. Where is the mistake? Name string is not defined. What is the name I have given? What's the problem here? Okay, I haven't run this. This is the problem. Okay. Now let me run this. Yeah, done. Now I can create an instance of this superclass. Okay, so I said calc equals to superclass. Okay, created an instance of superclass. Perfectly fine. Done. Now see, I go to the calc object dot press tab. Can you see? It has incorporated methods from everywhere. Add is there. Yes, add is there. Subtract is there. Multiplication is there. From string, concatenation is there. Yes, concatenation there. So it has taken all the methods, incorporated all the methods from these two classes. Now let me check one by one. Add. If I put a bracket and shift and tab, it will tell me give me two arguments, right? So I'm giving, for example, 4,3. So it should return me 7. Fine. Similarly, I am doing calc dot sub. That is, I think the method is sub. Yes. I'm again giving 4,3. It should return me 1. Perfect. I'm using calc and dot mul. Another method. I'm giving 4,3 again. I should get 12. Perfect. This time I'm taking calc dot again. Now the method name is concat. Fine. So I'm giving concat. Okay. And I'm giving whether I give strings or whether I give numbers, doesn't matter because I have the method known as string. So it will convert that into the string. No problem. Suppose I give one thing as P and second thing as S. No issue. Let me run this. I'll get PS. I hope it is clear what is multiple inheritance. Tell me, is it fine, everyone? Any doubt, then tell me, please.
Yes, sir.
Okay. But be cautious, be cautious. You can create the same way the problems may arise in the multi-level inheritance. You may have problems in the multiple inheritance as well. For example, it may be sometimes happen that you have a method or an attribute which has the same name here and same name in the second class. In that time, the problem will arise. So for example, it has the same name. Let me take an example. Let me define a function here. Just for example, I'm defining, okay? Def, I will delete it immediately. And the method name is, let's say, same method, concat. Let me show you the problem. Concat. Even I'm copying this. Okay? Or not let it not copy, I'm define new function. That is better so that you can understand. But name should be common. So I've created a function greet. Okay. Giving the argument self. And here I'm printing print. Hey, I'm from arithmetic. Okay. And same function I'm defining in my other class here. But here typing, hey, I am from string. Okay. So I'm running this. This one I am running as well as this one I am running. What happened? Def greet. Okay. Indentation problem. Let me bring it back. Sorry. Control Z. Control. Yeah. Perfect. Let me run it. Yeah, done. Now create a superclass. Create an object. Now if I check here, calc dot see how many methods is it showing? Add, concat, one more, only one more has been added. Although the name was same, greet here, but it has taken only one. It has taken only one greet. Both are performing different tasks. See, he's saying, hey, I am from arithmetic. It is saying, hey, I am from string. But which one it will take, you will see that. The one which you put first here. The one which you put first here. So what if I use this method, you will see, hey, I am from arithmetic. Let me show that. Calc.greet, let me call it and run it. Can you see that? It said, hey, I am from arithmetic. Right? It may be possible you didn't give an attention. You didn't give an attention that they have the same method. Right? And you are expecting the result from this. You are expecting result from this, but unfortunately, you didn't know that first class are already that method. So you will be getting the wrong result here. But you can rectify it once you get, okay, this is wrong answer what I'm getting. I should get answer from this. I should get answer from this. Just change their position. Just change their position. Type here string. That's it. Nothing else. And changes your position. Nothing special you have to do. Okay, let me run this. Let me run this and let me run. Can you check? Right? This is the problem with multiple inheritance. Multiple inheritance is very good, very, very good. But at which places is that good? If the classes from which you are inheriting have different attributes and different methods, then it does wonder for you. It makes your life hell easier, very, very easier. Provided the classes that you are inheriting from should have different, entirely different methods and entirely different attributes. I hope it is clear with everyone. Please tell me. Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Everyone, please.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great, great. Now moving ahead, I hope it is clear with everyone. What is inheritance? What is multiple inheritance? What is multi-level inheritance? Okay, remember that thing. Now moving ahead, a very, very important thing. We have just created the class. We know how to create the class. Okay, we studied exceptions. Remember, we studied exceptions to handle our errors. And in that we did study in detail. We studied in detail the built-in exceptions, but we do have an option of user-defined exceptions as well. Okay, we have the provision of user-defined exceptions as well. And once you know the class concept now you can create your own exceptions. You can create your own exceptions like you were getting last time. Zero division error, value error, and different things you were appearing. Remember, for example, I immediately run here a code like 5 divided by 0. So exception is here, zero division error. Right? Now you want to create something like that your message should be coming here. And here also your message should be coming here. Somebody like you have created this kind of thing. So you can, this is by default happened in the system. This is available in the system, but you can create like this on your own. How? So we are moving that. Okay. So how we can create that? Create a class. Create a class and name your exception the way you want. Somebody has created a class of zero division error. That's why this thing is coming here. Okay. You can put the name you want. Suppose I say, I'm saying my exception. This is my exception because I'm creating it. Okay. This is my exception. I am creating it. Fine. Now, every exception which was coming in Python 3, remember that was coming from a parent class known as exception. I told you that time, if you remember, Python 3 built-in exceptions. Yeah. If you go here and come down, we saw that all the exceptions that we were incorporating, any exception, those all were coming from the class exception. Okay. So your exception should also come from the same thing. They should come from exception class. They should come from the parent class exception. Now we know, how to incorporate or how to inherit the methods and attributes from parent class. So what I have to write? Simply in the bracket, type the name of that class, that is exception. Okay. Colon. Move ahead. Again, same. Create a constructor def underscore init underscore bracket self and any message like this message. What message you want to display here. Suppose I'm giving the name for now MSG. Okay, which I will be taking when I'm writing here. I will be taking it from the programmer or the user, wherever you want. I put a colon, enter, and here I define self. What message I want? I want a message equals to whatever user will give me. So I put MSG. A simple thing you have to do. My exception has been created. You'll see that my exception has been created. Let me run this. Okay. Now let me create a function. Let me create a function def. I'm just taking an example now. See, I'm creating a function sub, which takes two arguments a comma b, which takes two arguments a comma b. But I want that I should not get negative numbers. As a result, I want to do a minus b, but I don't want negative numbers. Whenever it happens, whenever negative result is coming, and when the result negative will come, you know that I want to perform a minus b. Means I want to return this. Simple. I want to return this a minus b. Okay. But I want to return a minus b only when it is guaranteed that it will result in positive result. Okay. I want to return a minus b, but in only one condition, that a is greater than b. That is the condition only. Only then it will result in positive output. So how can I deal with that? How can I deal with that? I'm going here and here I'm writing a condition if, see properly, b is greater than a. If b is greater than a, right? Then what you should do, remember we have studied, raise exception. Raise exception. And what exception you want to raise? Now I don't want any user or built-in exception. I want to raise my exception, which I have created. What's his name? His name is my exception. So put that here. My exception. Okay. I put a bracket here. And it will tell me that you need to put some message here. If I go and press Shift Tab inside this, if you can see the definition, it is telling me put some message here. Okay, so I am putting the message, hey, you have entered second argument, which is more than first argument, or whatever you want to write. For example, it is coming like 0 division by 0. So somebody has written here division by 0. Okay, somebody has written here division by 0. So whatever you want to do, you can do that. Now let me run it and use it. You'll see that. Okay, I've created this function that you can understand. Okay, so what do you want? If b is greater than a, I want to raise an exception. If not the case, if it is not the case, that is else. If it is not the case, means this condition become false. That is b is not greater than a, that is b is less than a, exception won't be raised. I want to return simple a minus b. Like this. Okay, let me run this. Run. Now use the function. Use the function. Suppose I am putting sub and giving the values, let's say 4, 3. So a is 4, b is 3. 100%. B is less than a, exception is not going to be raised. I will get the value a minus b, that is 1. Let me run this. Yes, perfect. Now, use this function again, means call this function. And this time put opposite, 3 and 4. What will happen? Exception will be raised. And you will see this kind of thing. My exception, whichever you have created. Here you will again see my exception and the message that you have given here. Let me show you that. Let me show you. Please check. See properly. Actually, these are advanced programming concepts, but as we have studied classes, we have studied exceptions. So I thought I should tell you. That's what I'm telling you. But these are exceptions. Normally, people don't create their own exceptions. They use the built-in exceptions. But see how easy it is. How easy it is. So what in reality you will do, you will not run your code like this. Remember why the exceptions are created. I just created this thing so that you can understand that same kind of exception will be raised. My exception, hey, you have entered wrong argument, very much like this. When somebody has done this way, same thing you are getting here. Everything like, you can see that perfectly. Means at least you have become at par with those who have created Python, at least not at par with them, 50% of them. Let me say that because you know what they have done, you can create such kind of effect here. I'll show you one more advanced method. Don't worry, I'm coming back. Okay, but this is I just show that we can create our own exception. But what we will do, first of all, we will create our own exception. Okay, then we will create our own code, own functions. Okay, own functions where you expect that there may be an error. There may be chances of error. So put that here. Put it like this. Put it like this. Means create a function, for example, create a function like this, where you expect, okay, there may be an exception. There may be an exception, right? But we need to know how to handle the exceptions. This way my program will be halted. This I don't want. This I don't want, right? I don't want this kind of thing to happen. So I need to handle this exception. So first of all, when you're creating your own exception, you want to use them. Remember, first in your program, recognize where I can get error, where I can get error, and there use these kind of statements. There use this kind of statement. If b is greater than this, and pack that in a function. Once that is packed in a function, now I can use my try and except. See how easy that is. How easy that is. So I'm going to write try. Okay. And I'm typing a equals to let's say sub, and I'm passing here 4, 3. Passing here a, 3, and I want to print it. Print a. Okay. If by chance user doesn't supply the proper input, then exception should be raised, right? You want exception to be raised. So how you will write? Because if user is supplying like 3, 4, then that you need to raise an exception that should be defined in this inside your function. Inside your function, this should be defined that whenever user is going to supply like 3,4, you have to raise an exception that should be defined inside your sub function that we have already done here. That we have done already in our function, right? We have done that. So same thing you have to do here. Once done, type except means you are ready, means your function defined and you have cleared everything. You have defined in your function that it may happen, right? Now prepare the block which will handle the exception. Which exception you want to handle? My exception. You want to handle my exception. Okay. And as example, as analyze or as an object, then put a colon. And here I can put print. For example, I am supplying the current output now, 4,3. I will see the value. I will see the value of this. Let me run that. I will get 1. Okay. But in case, if I don't supply the proper output, proper input, I supply 3,4 or 2,4. That means I satisfied the condition of the exception, but this time my program won't crash like this. It will immediately go to the exception handling, right? So let me run this and you will see the line, hey, you have entered the second argument, which is more than the first argument. Your exception is properly handled. Properly handled. If you are going into the data science field, I don't think you are going to use it. But I thought of telling you because you have just studied in detail your classes and objects. You should know all the exploration, means how we can create our own exception, how easy it is. This is an error you get normally. This is a zero division error, right? They have defined something like this. Now you get an idea. Now you get an idea how easy the programming is. It's not tougher at all. Even somebody wants to become a Python developer, they can dive a little bit more deeper and become a good Python developer. Not bigger things are required if your basics are clear. Tell me, is it okay, everyone? Please.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Great, perfect. How easy it is. See, I didn't a magic. I didn't create a magic. I just did what other programmers has done when they have created a Python. Now, one more thing, one very important thing. Again, in data science, you may not require, but if you became a Python developer, you may require logging your errors. Logging your errors means suppose you created a program, right? Where the exceptions will be raised, error will be raised, something like that. Okay? What I want for later verification, you want to log all your files. Log means keep the entry, what errors I have received in my programs. I want to put that in a file and txt file. I want to put all these things in a txt file. That is very, 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 very easy. Very easily you can do that in Python. They have a model, they have a special module for the same. The module name is logging module, special module known as logging module. Okay. Before logging that, understand in Python, there are different kind of logging error level, different kind of error levels. Example, you will understand by the name itself. The topmost priority, at the topmost is critical. CRITICAL. Okay. Then at the second level, we have error. And what is the critical? Critical means represents a very serious error that needs high attention. Very serious error that needs a high attention, that is critical. Right? An error means what? A serious error. Okay. In critical, it may be possible that your system may crash, something like that. So critical, that is critical. Okay. Then you have a second level error, and every error has a particular code. Every error has a particular code. Every error level. For example, we talk about the critical, it has a numeric value of 50 level. Okay. At error, we have a numeric value of 40 level, 10 below that, 10 below that. Then we come at the third level. First level is the highest level is critical, then error, then warnings. Warning normally people used to ignore. Even I do ignore. When I do ignore. Okay. Represents a warning message. Some caution should be there. Okay. Then we have a info level. And if you want a numeric value, Critical is 50, error is 40, warning is 30, info is 20, something like that. Okay. Then you have a debug. You have a debug. And at the last, we have not set. There are different error levels, Okay. So how can we log errors? Understand. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to import a module in the Python known as logging, first of all. I'm going to import a module known as logging. First thing, I did that. Then perfectly. This module will help me to store my all errors that have been created during the program execution. Okay, when I start running my program, whatever errors have come, those errors it will log. It will log and store in a text file, which you can see anytime you want later on. Okay, so what you have to do, you have input logging, then type logging. Okay, I input a model. In the logging, I have a special method. I have a special method known as basic configuration. So I type basic, automatic, just press tab, it will auto-complete. Basic config. Now inside this, any text file name in which you want to save, any text file name, even if it doesn't exist, it will create for you. Okay, it will create for you in the home directory where this code is running. Suppose I am saying my error log.txt file. Okay, here I will save my all the errors that will arise. Okay, now you will tell what error level you want. Okay, at what error level you want. So suppose I'm typing here. Okay, so this is my error of txt, and error level I want. Suppose example logging.error. Logging.error level. Okay, but we normally write it in the form of keyword argument. So I will type here file name equal to my error logs.txt, and here I will type level equals to logging.error. Okay, logging.error. I think spelling error should be there. Let me ER, it will come. Yeah, logging.error. Perfectly fine. So what will happen here is that it will create a file if it does not exist, known as my error logs.txt. Okay, and it will capture all the errors till the level of error from beginning, means critical to error. These two will be captured by this, critical and error. Is it fine? So you will get two, means critical error will come, then it will log. Error will come, it will log. It won't take automatic, it won't take warning and info. If you want to log that, put instead of error, put warning here. You can do that. That's in your hand. For example, if press tab, it will take that. You can say warning option is there. But warnings normally you can ignore, no problem with that. Okay. So I define the level, and remember I'm defining the error. So it will take that level as well as one level above that. So it will capture critical and error. These two things it will capture. If I put warning, it will take that level and the levels above it, that is error and critical both. If I define info, then it will capture this as well as all above that. If I define debug, then all above that. Means the level you will define, it will take that one as well as the label above it. Whatever levels are above that. Every level. Error, then error plus critical. Warning, then warning plus error plus critical. Info, then info plus warning plus error plus critical. Okay. This thing I have to do. Let me do. This is the basic configuration I'm doing. Let me run this. Okay, done successfully. Now what you have to do? Very, very simple thing that you have to do now. I hope it is clear with everyone till now. Any doubt in this? Please tell me. Is till this point any doubt? What I am doing? At least say yes or no. I'll get an idea.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And now see.
Sir, sir, hello, sir.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Okay, sir. Actually, means my error logs.txt. If I want to see that particular text file, means
no, don't worry. I'm showing you that.
Is it possible? Okay,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. We will see that. Once we will create, now you will see that.
Oh, okay, sir.
Even you can mail it to someone you want.
Okay, sir.
Fine.
Thank you. Thank you.
Don't worry. Let me see it has created or not. We have run that code. See, it has been created. My error logs. I just created, and you can see it is empty file for now. Nothing is there because we have just created the file. My error logs. Is it fine? It is entirely empty.
Yes, sir.
Then let's see. Now we will make it work because we have just created the basic configuration. Means these are the errors I want to capture. This is the file where I will save my files. Now what I'm going to do, suppose I'm writing a code where there are the chances that error may occur. So I'm writing try, see properly, try, take an input from the user like a equals to input. I'm saying enter first number. Okay, enter first number, colon. And as I'm expecting the number, let me convert it into the string. Because whatever he will enter, it will be automatically converted into the I'm expecting the number to be integer, right? That's why I've entered enter first number. But whatever he will enter, it will be converted into the string. To convert a string into the integer, I have to use the int method. If somebody is unmuted, please can you mute? Thank you. Okay. So first number, then I'm going ahead. I'm taking second number. Okay. It may be possible that user may enter something wrong. That's why I will run that code in the try block. Remember, that's why the function of try and except is where you expect that there may be some chances. Put that in the try block. I'm typing again input here, enter second number. Whatever number he will enter, that will automatically become a string, and that string will become into the integer with the help of p. Done. Perfect. Fine. Fine. Now what I want to perform example a upon b. I want to perform a upon b. Perfectly fine. No issue with that. Okay. I want to perform a upon b now. If everything goes good, fine. Otherwise, everything doesn't go good. Everything doesn't go good, then I have to go to the except. And we know which is the class which captures all the exceptions. Remember, which is the class which captures all the exceptions? Which is the parent class of the exceptions?
My exception.
No, that was my class. That was my class. It's the exception class. That's why we use in the my class as well. Remember, we use that in the my class. That was the custom one. This is the parent class which incorporates almost all of the exceptions. See here, explained just there. This is the parent class under which all the exceptions are coming. That's why we used it in our inheritance concept when we are using my exception. Okay. So I'm typing exception as suppose I'm creating an alias e. Okay. Now see what I have to do. I have to use the module login, and in the logging module there is a method known as exception method. So just type exception. It will automatically complete exception. Okay. And press E because this E will have the information. This E will have the information about the exception occurred. This E will have the information about the exception occurred, and this logging.exception will save that exception inside your file that you have created here, myerrors.log.txt. That's the simple thing you have to do. Just this thing. Call a method exception and pair is E. So what this will do, this will create the exception which has been created and save that into a file known as myerrorlogs.txt. Okay, this done. Except block is completed. If the error doesn't occur, optional block, else I'm saying print simply the value of C. Okay, that's it. This is the only thing I want. So let me run this. Let me run this. And first time, let me enter everything correctly. Okay, so I'm running it. Asking me the first number. So I'm giving 6. Asking the second number, I'm giving 2. So my result C should be printed without any problem. Yeah, 3 has been printed. Let me go to that file again, myerrorlogs.txt. Nothing should be there because exception has not been raised. Yes, completely empty, right? Completely empty. We can see that. Now let me do that. Let me do the other thing. What I'm doing now, this case, again running this cell. Copy it, paste it here, okay, and run it. Once I run it, let me put 6 first argument. Okay, let me put first argument. Let me put second argument to be 0. Okay, let me put second argument to be 0. As we are dividing by 0, immediately an exception will be raised, which will be what? Division, 0 division error. Okay, that will be captured by exception and that will be saved in my file. So I put 6 and 0 and run it. So this else won't print. You see that? Let me run it. What happened? Let me run it. Something's happening. Wait a second. Why it is wave like this? Let me stop it. Interrupt. Let me run it again. Let me put again 6. Okay, I'm putting 0. Yeah, done. Now see, your else has not been printed because exception has been raised. That's why you didn't get the C. Now go to our file again. My error logs. Can you see, please? Is it fine, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is a very good way of troubleshooting. Means keep that error with you, and it will tell you also in which line the problem has occurred, where the problem has occurred. It will immediately recognize. Later on, you can troubleshoot that, and you can keep this file as a reference for the later use. For later use, sometimes you created a program and you are looking at that program after 6 months or 7 months, and you are again doing the mistake and error is coming. So you can see your error file. Okay, this was the problem which were coming earlier. Next time I'm going to do that, won't repeat that mistake again. I hope it is okay with everyone. Please tell me.
Yes, sir.
Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
That's great. Okay. Now, actually, you know the advanced concept. These were actually, I could have skipped that, but I didn't want to skip that because you never know. A few of you may want to go into the Python development in the future, but you should know these are advanced concepts. Means how to handle, how to log your errors. Okay. How to create our own exception classes. And that is very easy. Nothing special I have done. Can you see that? Nothing special I have done. Nothing special. A simple line of piece of code has helped me out. Nothing special I have done. I hope it is okay with everyone. Please tell me. Fine?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now moving to the one concept known as, see, sometimes if somebody will ask you, have you studied classes and objects? You will say, yes, I have studied. Then he will ask you one thing. Have you studied OOPS? Have you studied OOPS? He will ask you. Okay. Immediately he may ask you, have you studied OOPS? So you will say, yes, I have studied. Why? I'll tell you. What is the full form of OOPS? Object Oriented Programming System. Object Oriented Programming System. What is that? How can you define that that particular language is supporting OOPS? How can you define that? There are 5 properties for a language to satisfy. If it is to be called, it supports OOPS. What are those properties? One property is it should have classes and objects. Classes and objects. Do Python have classes and objects? Your answer will be Python supports classes and objects or not? Please tell me. Python
Yes,
supports.
sir.
Yes, we
Yes,
have just
sir.
seen that. We have just seen that. We have created classes and the objects from them. Second, it should support inheritance. Does Python has this property or not? Inheritance.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. We just saw that. Okay. 2 properties have been satisfied. Third property. Polymorphism. Polymorphism. Let me break it. When a same function can have many forms. When a same function can have, poly means many, morphism matlab forms. Morphism means forms. So when a function has many forms, that is nothing but your polymorphism. Poly means many, morphism. I just tell you what is morphism. You know morphology. Have you listened the word or not? Morphology.
Yes, sir.
It has come from the actually Greek word. One is poly. Poly means many. And second word, Greek word is morphos. And morphos means forms. Okay, so normally we define this way: ability to assume several different forms. Several different forms. You will say, sir, what is this? We didn't encounter such kind of thing in the Python, but you did. See how? I'm typing two integers, 3, and using an operator plus, putting 4 here. Okay, and running it. What I'm getting? 7. Okay, let me change it. Let me make 3 a string, again using same operator, putting 4 here. Now see, it behaves differently. Means operator is same, but operand has changed. Operator is same, but operand has changed. Once the operator has changed, it is behaving differently now. Same operator is having different forms. Here it is giving you addition, 3 plus 4. And here it will give you concatenation, that is 3, 4. Can you see that? Can you see your Python supports polymorphism? This is one example, just one example I'm seeing. Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you can say same method will be performing different behavior in different context. Okay, so you can write a method and that method will behave differently depending upon different context, what operand you are giving example. That is your polymorphism. Okay, now fourth property that it should satisfy, that is known as encapsulation. Encapsulation. Anybody heard the word encapsulation ever? Don't consider it as a programming or something. Encapsulation. Basically, if you consider thing, means encapsulation means nothing but packing together. In easier words, packing together or binding together. That is nothing but encapsulation. Okay, encapsulation. So what is encapsulation in technical terms? If we talk, a mechanism where data, here data means your variables. Data means variables and methods. A mechanism where data or variables and methods are bind together. Okay, a mechanism where data and methods which act on the variables or which act on the data are bind together. And this is the thing we do in classes. Remember, when we create classes, let me take an example where I've used init method. Let me take Yassi. So what I did here, I created a variable age, right? I created a method and I bind them inside your one class. I bind them inside your one class. Even this is just doing printing, but we have seen that in earlier cases, we were where these methods are operating on these variables. These methods are operating on these variables. If you can see that somewhere, we did it yesterday, if I can recall. Yes, see. The variable is age here, right? There is a variable age, and here we are using same variable. See, operating on the variable. So same function is operating on that variable, that is self.age or self.name. So what we are doing, we are binding the variables and the methods together in a class. This is nothing but encapsulation. So Python supports that. Python supports that. And fifth and the last that it should incorporate is known as abstraction. It's known as abstraction. Let me give you a brief example of abstraction. Have you people work on the projects? We have submitted, sometimes we are working on a project, you may be a final year or third year. When we create a project report, before creating a final project, what we submit to our college? What we submit to our college in a short, in one page.
Or
Normally,
abstract.
yes, we subject the, why we provide the abstract. What does abstract basically consist of? What does that abstract basically means? If you submit abstract to your teachers, absolutely right. Before finalization of your project or something, you submit abstract. Say, this is my abstract. Please see it. What it is?
It's a brief summary of what we are going to do.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Right? Means you are briefing, you are giving the details in brief, only in briefing, not in details. You are telling everything in brief. Means what you are trying to do, you are hiding unnecessary details. I didn't mean to say that. You're hiding unnecessary details. Okay, a great example of abstraction. See, understand. We all of us have sit in the car or the drive the car for sure. Okay, a car has several things in a car. There is an engine, there is a radiator, there is a filter. Okay, there is a fuel tank. But does every one of us have seen that radiator, has seen that filter, have seen that engine, or at least interested in that, where the radiator is, where the engine is, where its throttle body or carburetor is? Does everyone know? No. Why? These are not important for us. So for us, what has been done, those all of the things have been packed inside the bonnet. Being a car owner, we don't bother what is inside. We just need to drive. So unnecessary details are hidden from us. But those are available for sure. Those are available. Those who want to access, for example, you get some fault in your car engine. Then where will you go? You will go to a mechanic because he knows to do that. So those things have been hidden, which are not necessary for you, but those are available. And when somebody, specific person want to access that, those can access that. Tell me, is it fine or not? Please tell me. Is it clear?
Sir.
What do you mean by abstraction? Abstraction means hiding unnecessary details. And that is also option in your Python as well. There's also option in Python of hiding unnecessary details. For example, there you need some variables. You don't want it to be public. You don't want it to be public. Let me show you. Let me create a class. Let's say class, a simple class, a sample class. The class name is sample. I'm not doing anything in the class. Suppose I'm defining a variable def in it. Underscore. I put self. Okay. I put self and I'm not taking any argument from someone. I'm just typing variables of our example self dot x equal to, I said a constant, let's say 10. Okay, now see, once I did this self dot x, it is easily available. It is public variable. You can say it is public. It is easily available, right? But if I want some variable to be private, see, how can I do that? I will write self, then dot, then type two underscores, underscore. The moment I do this, this variable becomes a private variable. Let me type y equals to 12. Y equals to 12. Okay, fine. I'm creating a method here, def, or if I don't want to create, doesn't matter. For now, it is sufficient. I run this. I create an instance of the class, suppose C, and let me create an instance that means sample. Okay, created. Now, what happened? There is some error. Name sample is not defined. Okay, sorry, small is better. Follow the convention. Let me put it capital. Run. And now this time run. Now see. Now you know how to see what variables are available to us. Remember, how do we see that? C, then dot, then tab, right? Let me press tab. Can you see how much I'm getting? How much variables I'm getting? I'm just after dot pressing tab. I'm not seeing the list. Directly it is showing that you have one variable only, that is X. So where has the Y gone? Y has become private. It is not accessible. See, after dot, normally how will you search? Normally, this is the way you work, no? This is the way you work. You know, okay, I have imported this class. Okay, fine, perfectly fine. So I know how to access its attributes. So I'll put C dot. I understand whatever methods and attribute that are to this available to this class, that will be available. So I will press after dot, I will press tab. Show me only one, that is X. And it is 10 for sure, check it. But where has the Y gone? Y has become private. Y has become private now. Means hidden, abstraction is there, hiding, not available, but you can access that, don't worry. There's a different way to handle it. There's a different way to handle it. How will I handle it? See, take your instance name. What is your instance name? Is C. Press dot, press underscore, press dot, press underscore. Now try to press tab. Several things will appear. Several things will appear. If you're a programmer, a pro programmer, then 100% fine. You will understand how to access the private methods. But if you're not programmer, you will say, what is this rubbish? What is this happening? Right? This is available. This is your path. This is your path of your private variable. This is your path. How do we write that? After that, your class name, sample. And after that, your variable name, double underscore y. Okay, this is simple. And now let me check it. It will be available. See, I hope it is okay.
Yes, sir.
Is it fine? And the one underscore that you are seeing before this is for the name mangling, so that it doesn't get mixed for any other function. That's why the Python does that. Put underscore so that it doesn't mix with your other functions if you have created at all. For that, it's known as name mangling. Name mangling. So now see, it was your private variable. This is your private variable. So those variable, we don't want it to available to the public. You make them private. So it is not available. Very much like your bonnet. Bonnet, in the side of your bonnet, there is radiator, there is other filters, there are other things which are hidden. But you can access that. You know how to access that, and you can go and access it. But normally these are hidden. Normally those are hidden. Same way, this becomes a private variable, a hidden variable, not available. So means why we did that? So that we understand what is abstraction, hiding unnecessary detail. This may be a variable which you don't want user to see. We don't want user to see, you just make a private variable. User won't be able to see that, but if you are a pro programmer or you know how to access that, you can do that. Follow the simple protocol, your instance name, dot underscore, your class name, double underscore, y. That's it, you can access. I hope it is okay with everyone.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I know today's concepts have been little bit advanced, but these should be remembered. These should be remembered. Not tough, but these are advanced concepts for sure. But you should know these. I don't think so you will ever encounter these kind of things in your data science. I don't think so you are going to encounter, because we have to work more. 99% of the time you will be working only on your pandas and NumPy, your for loop. Let me tell you what you will be using in the data science. Your for loop, your while loop. 70% time you will be using for loop only. 30% of the time your while loop. And after for while you will be using functions for sure. Functions will come into the picture. Definitely. Functions will come into the picture. And functions, for loop, this one, your list, tuples, dictionaries, 3 things. And these are the basic things that you require. But and exceptions, especially if exception will be used when you are trying to connect to a resource that may give you an output, that may give you an error. There are chances that it will produce an error. In that cases, you will be using exceptions as well. So you must understand. So all the basics have been covered now. Tomorrow, time is already 7:16, so we won't be able to complete or start even. So tomorrow we'll be starting our NumPy or Pandas. I'll see what's to start first. Is it fine, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Please revise it and listen this video once again if possible. Okay. It was covering several advanced concepts. So please go through them, or at least make a notes of them if you can. Although I've always provide this sheet with you, but all the time I'll share this sheet with you so that you can keep it as a reference. Okay. And you can log in and you can use it itself. Better make some notes or in short or something, like put it somewhere, so that when you want to revise it, go through that and see that what is happening. And I don't think so anything was tough. Anything whatever covered today, it was at all tough. Just more explanation was required, nothing else. Okay, so remember this question for your interview point of view. Remember, what are the properties of object-oriented programming system? Remember these. It should support classes and objects, inheritance, polymorphism, encapsulation, abstraction. And what, in short, at least you can explain somehow what is classes and objects, what is inheritance, what is polymorphism, what is encapsulation, what is abstraction. And trust me, I gave an interview of a Russian university, NSU. It is world's one of the top university, and they asked me only one question in entire object-oriented programming. That is, what is polymorphism? Right. So I know the person who says I'm long, oops, they will ask you either one of these properties for sure. One of these properties for sure. At least you can give brief answer. What is this? What is this? What is this? What is this? And we have seen everything. There's nothing like we haven't worked on objects and systems. It is nothing like that we haven't worked on inheritance, right? We use inheritance in details. We have worked on polymorphism. We see how what is encapsulation. We just saw what is abstraction, for example, a simple example, right? And every time, the better thing is that whenever you are learning something, right, remember it or link it with some common world use cases. Link it with some common world use cases. This way, it is easier to remember. And remember, whenever somebody talks to you about abstraction, take two examples: either your project submission abstract or that car example that I've given you, hiding unnecessary things inside the bonnet. Okay, I'm a user. I don't bother where it is, where it is, where it is. Is anyone there who bought a car and first went to their place? Sir, please show me where is the radiator? Sir, where is the filter, air filter? Does anybody bother? We just see, sir, how much is the leg space, boot space, right? How much acceleration it has, how much horsepower it has, how much CC engine is that? We see this kind of things. We don't bother where the filter is, where the radiator is, where is the fuel pump, anything like this. We don't bother with that. Okay, so I'm ending for the day. We'll meet you tomorrow again. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
Good night,
Good night,
everyone.
sir.
Good night, everyone. Good night.
Good night, sir.
Good night, everyone.